It's a powerful story you may have seen shared online, a modern legend about what can happen in a quiet, small-town diner. A young woman named Clara, who used a wheelchair, just wanted to enjoy her meal in peace. But a group of cruel bullies decided to make her their target. They didn't just mock her, they slapped her plate of food right out of her lap and shoved her wheelchair, leaving her humiliated. They thought their laughter was the end of the story. But they were wrong. Because 1 hour later, the roar of engines filled the street, and the diner door swung open to reveal a group of men who had come to settle the score. The morning sun spilled across the chrome edges of the Maplewood Diner, a place where the smell of syrup and coffee usually promised comfort. For Clara, it was supposed to be a sanctuary. Born with a spinal condition, she relied on a wheelchair to navigate the world, but she refused to let it dim her spirit. On this day, she'd found a booth by the window, a plate of pancakes in front of her like a small shield against the world. For a while, there was peace, just the clatter of cutlery and the low murmur of conversations. But a new sound cut through the harmony. It was laughter. Not the warm, friendly kind, but the sharp, cruel sort that's looking for a target. From a nearby booth, 3 local boys were watching her. Their leader, a young man with a cocky grin, leaned in and whispered to his friends. They all snickered, their eyes fixed on Clara. She felt their stares like a physical weight and tried to shrink into her seat. She told herself to just ignore them, to not let them win. But they were relentless. Their whispers grew into loud, mocking comments. "Look at her shake," one said, loud enough for other tables to hear. "Can't even feed herself." Clara's cheeks burned with humiliation. Her appetite vanished. The comfort of the diner had evaporated, replaced by a cold dread. She looked around, pleading with her eyes for someone, anyone, to step in. A few people looked down, suddenly fascinated by their salt shakers. An old man frowned over his newspaper but said nothing. The waitress, Martha, hovered near the kitchen, wringing a dishcloth. No one moved. The silence of the other patrons was its own kind of cruelty, an invisible wall that trapped Clara alone with her tormentors. Emboldened by the lack of resistance, the leader swaggered over to Clara's table. His friends followed like vultures. He loomed over her, a smirk on his face. "What's the matter?" he sneered. "Cat got your tongue?" Clara refused to look at him, her heart pounding. Then the unthinkable happened. The ringleader deliberately slapped the plate of pancakes from her lap, sending food crashing to the floor. Another gave her wheelchair a hard, mocking shove that jolted her. The diner froze. A collective, silent shock rippled through the room. And then, the bullies erupted in triumphant, braying laughter. They high-fived each other and swaggered out, leaving a trail of shattered silence and one heartbroken girl in their wake. Clara just sat there, shame burning hotter than any physical pain. Tears she refused to let fall, stinging her eyes. The hour that followed was one of the longest of Clara's life. The diner, once a haven, now felt like the scene of her public humiliation. Martha, the waitress, rushed over with a cloth, her eyes full of apology. "Honey, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. Clara could only nod, unable to speak. The other patrons slowly went back to their meals, but the air was thick with unspoken guilt. Then a new sound began to cut through the quiet. At first it was a low, distant rumble, like faraway thunder. But it grew steadily, a deep, guttural vibration that made the diner's windows tremble. Patrons looked up as a procession of gleaming chrome and dark leather pulled into the parking lot. The roar of dozens of heavy motorcycles filled the air before falling one by one into an echoing silence. The bell on the door chimed, announcing a very different kind of arrival, The door swung open and a group of men stepped inside. They were broad-shouldered and imposing, their leather jackets covered in patches that spoke of a brotherhood forged on the road. They didn't have to be loud. They carried an aura of quiet, unshakable authority that commanded the room's attention. Their leader was a mountain of a man, with a thick, graying beard and eyes that missed nothing. In many retellings of this story, he's known as Roar. He paused inside the doorway, his crew fanning out behind him. His sharp eyes scanned the diner, taking in the nervous waitress and the wide-eyed patrons before they settled on Clara. He saw her huddled in the corner, the mess on the floor, and the uneaten food. He exchanged a silent, knowing look with his men. No words were needed. It turns out Martha, the waitress, had a nephew in the biker club. Overcome with guilt, she had made a frantic phone call the moment the bullies left. And now, here they were. Just then, the bullies reappeared, swaggering back in as if returning to the scene of a great victory. Their laughter died in their throats the second they saw Roar standing there, waiting for them like a stone wall. Their arrogant smirks faltered, replaced by confusion, then a flicker of fear. Kyle, trying to regain his footing, puffed out his chest. "Excuse me, Grandpa," he said. "You're in the way." Roar didn't move. He just looked down at the boy, his eyes carrying a weight that made Kyle's bravado crumble. "We need to have a conversation," Roar said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, "about what happened here an hour ago." Kyle's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. "I think you do," Roar said, his voice dropping even lower. At that moment, a voice cut through the tension. It was the old man who had lowered his newspaper. He stood up, his hands trembling but his voice clear. "They harassed that young lady," he said, pointing a finger. "They mocked her, knocked her food over, and pushed her chair." Martha the waitress stepped forward, nodding. "It's true," she added. "All of it." The truth was out. The collective shame of the patrons had found its voice. A cold, righteous anger burned in Roar's eyes. He took a slow step toward Kyle, who flinched. The other bikers shifted, silent sentinels reinforcing their leader. "You think it makes you a man?" Roar asked, his voice dangerously calm. "To humiliate a young woman because you can?" Kyle was speechless, a mask of terror on his face. "You're going to apologize," Roar commanded, "and I want to hear it." Defeated, Kyle nodded numbly. Led by Roar, the three boys were marched over to Clara's booth. Stripped of all their arrogance, they stood before her. I'm sorry," Kyle mumbled, staring at the floor. "Louder," Roar ordered. Kyle looked at Clara, his face flushed. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "We were wrong." His friends mumbled their apologies, their bravado completely shattered. Clara stared at them, then gave a small nod. It was enough. "Now get out," Roar said. "And if I ever see you treating anyone with disrespect in this town again, you'll answer to me." The three practically ran from the diner in a humiliating retreat. The tension in the room dissolved, replaced by a wave of relief. Someone started clapping, and soon the entire diner was applauding. Not for the bullies' shame, but for the restoration of kindness. Bear turned to Clara, the hard lines around his eyes softening. "Mind if we join you?" he asked gently. Stunned, Clara nodded. The bikers pulled up chairs, creating a protective circle around her. Roar slid a $100 bill onto the table. "For your meal, and for the trouble," he said softly. He then did something no one would forget. He took off his own leather vest and gently draped it over Clara's shoulders. "Your family now," he told her. The diner owner came out and announced that all the bikers' food was on the house. In that moment, Clara wasn't the girl in the wheelchair. She was seen. She was safe. The story of what happened in the Maplewood diner became a modern legend, a reminder that cruelty, no matter how loud, is no match for the quiet strength of compassion. It's a testament to the idea that true power isn't found in putting others down, but in lifting them up. It shows that sometimes the most unexpected people can restore our faith in humanity. If this story inspired you, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others who might need a reminder that kindness will always win. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that celebrate the best of the human spirit. We have to ask, what would you have done in that situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.